Welcome to another Webinar Wednesday. My name is Brandon Lilly, and joining me today, I've got Jeremy Lee. Jeremy is one of our just incredibly talented designers, and we're going to take a little bit of time today and talk about the anatomy of successful landing pages. You know, we talk about landing pages and design and website design and convertible design all the time. So Jeremy's actually stepped in. He has a lot of experience in helping small businesses design their sites and design their landing pages to be more convertible. And that's obviously the goal, right? You can spend a ton of money on marketing and everything like that, driving people to your site. But if your site itself isn't convertible, it's not well designed, then you're kind of just, you're wasting some of that money and you're wasting some of that energy. So we've got Jeremy joining us. We're going to talk about the anatomy of successful landing pages, how to generate more leads, and boost your conversion rates on your platform. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, everyone. It's nice to be here.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you're joining us. So let's go ahead and kind of jump right in here. We'll jump into our next slide. Jeremy, walk me through what we're looking at here. What exactly is this going to look like?
Okay, so this first slide is what a really basic skeleton of a landing page is supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. The three basic elements are some content to inform the users about what the product or service is. Maybe it'll have a complementary image or a video, as you can see there. And then the most important part of a conversion page or landing page is a way for the users to convert. So in this case, we have a form on the right-hand side of the page. And at the bottom, we have a call to action button. So there's two ways for a user to convert on this page.
Excellent. So in this particular example, we're not really looking at like what do the colors look like and how do you exude brand in your design or things like that. Right now, we're just talking about a bare bones basic wireframe. Like what should a landing page include? Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. So we're looking at that header. We need some content. We've got a conversion form on there. But to me, it really kind of looks like a big part of this is obviously keeping it simple, keeping it straightforward, and keeping it above the fold, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is essentially what somebody who doesn't have a lot of training in marketing or design, if they were just going to build a page, this is what belongs there.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So make notes, everyone. If you're going to be working on a design and start building out your own pages or things like that, these are the key elements that you want to make sure that this has. It's got your header. It's got either a video or an image or something that kind of brings the eye in, draws the eye in, content, and then obviously that conversion form. And I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but if you would like to follow along on this slide or reference it later, you can always access this at m360.us/0f46. Again, this slide is available at m360.us/0f46. So let's go ahead and move on to this next slide here. We want to talk about reducing friction, right?
Okay.
Jeremy, how do you reduce friction in a landing page, and what does that even mean?
So going off of a really basic landing page, the easiest way to kind of approach this problem is to visualize it. That's how I find solving problems like the easiest method of doing it. In essence, what we're doing when we're creating successful landing pages is we're reducing friction down a sales funnel. So if you visualize a funnel, up top are customers who are potentially going to be converters, and all the way at the bottom comes out are people who give you the money or buy the service. Our job, or your job as business owners out there, is going to be to reduce barriers down that funnel and in some ways expedite that process to have users go down and convert.
So it's not even always about the marketing plan or the marketing message as much as it is just making it easy for people to give you their money, right?
Yeah,
or give you their information if we're talking about a lead form or something like that. So what are some different ways that we can reduce friction?
In this seminar, we're going to cover 4 different ways of reducing friction. One is building trust. Number 2 is to utilize effective visuals. Number 3 is to create urgency. And number 4 is to be respectful to your customers.
There we go. 4 key points. So let's go ahead and move on. Let's jump directly into building trust. How do we do that?
Awesome. First card, building trust. In other words, we need to find a way to have a stranger feel good about giving another stranger their money or their personal information on a website, right? And we have a few key ways we're going to go over today. I'm just going to go to the next slide here. Number 1 is using trust badges. 70% of people trust or want to see that they can trust a service or platform before they actually convert on that product. So an example of this is maybe a money-back guarantee, or maybe using an SSL certificate on your website to show that it has some authority and security. Number 2 is testimonials. That's another really big percentage of people who look for reviews. It's one of the reasons why Amazon is very successful. They curate the reviews and they make sure that they're a trustworthy place for people to get information from. Utilizing partner logos. In this instance, I want to point to this A/B test that was conducted by a watch company a couple of years back. They were selling branded watches, and what they did on their product pages is they made 2 different ones, so they A/B tested it. One is just a regular product page, and in the second one, they actually put an authorized dealer icon right next to the add to cart button. So, as you can see that, it's like, maybe it's Rolex. Here's a Rolex watch, add to cart, authorized dealer. So having that Rolex brand on that page is actually helping people trust you a little bit more, knowing that you're affiliated with them officially.
Yeah, one of my favorite trust badges is on forms. Not even just because you can do money back guarantee, free shipping, if qualities are concerned, made in the USA, something like that. But one of my favorite kind of little trust icons for form submissions is just putting a little padlock. Just put a picture of a padlock next to that submit or send or any whatever the button is for delivering the information, right, to submit that form. Right. Putting that padlock there, I've always found that you get more conversions by having that there. It's just a visual cue of this is a secure form. You don't have to worry about it. If you've got a little privacy policy there too, we'll never sell or give away your information or spam you. I love that. So from a trust perspective, you're saying that helps to reduce friction and kind of increase trust in websites.
Absolutely. Anything that can make people feel more confident and converting should be on there.
Awesome. Excellent.
Yeah.
What else?
Another point I have here is to be genuine. This one, I kind of like to point at, we've all had an interaction sometime in our life where we're talking to somebody and maybe they're being a little bit disingenuous to us. And we just pick up a little bit. Maybe that's not so real. People are really good at picking up when somebody is not being really straightforward with them. And the same goes when they're on a website. People pick up when a business is lying to them, whether it's concrete or not. And being genuine allows us to kind of hold on to that user trust and not scare or have anybody not want to buy the product or service. Couple other points here. Contact information. It's just a principle of being transparent. If we offer your phone number or your email address to be easily available for people, they can see that you're legit and that they can reach out to you if there are any problems. So that just builds up that trust a little bit more. And lastly, to build trust, it's important that you showcase expertise on your site. What that means is there's a reason why you're in a particular product or service. You need to make sure that your background in that vertical is communicated. So if you're a lawyer, for example, hey, I've been in practice for 10 years, make that visible and make it apparent so people can trust you.
Perfect. I love it. So making sure that that your expertise is there, and I think adding that in kind of conjunction with the contact information that really helps, because if someone has a question, they can actually reach out to a person. They can reach out to you. If they want to know, do you actually have the talent and the skill in this area? You've already showcased it, with some user-generated content, some imagery, pictures of the product or pictures of the service that you provided, and then with having contact information easily accessible, it makes you seem like a real business. You're really genuine.
Yes, and we're actually going to go through really quickly and apply these principles so you can ground what we're talking about here, and it's not just some crazy ideas in the air. What I have up on the screen now is the original landing page that we started with. And then once we start applying... The header,
the image, and the conversion form and all that. Yep.
Right, the basic skeletal elements. And then once we start applying these trust building techniques, it should look a little bit more like this. So a few things I want to point out with this particular slide. So we added the contact information, as you can see right beneath the form there. So it's very visible and people know that you're legit. There's a trust badge now right next to the call to action button that says potty train or your money back. In this particular case, we're building a puppy training company. And utilizing trust badges, partner logos, at the bottom of the page here, I included maybe prominent dog shelter logos or maybe a police station K9 unit logos. And that just, if You go to this puppy training business and you see that they have worked with the police department in training their dogs. You can trust them to train your dog to at least be potty trained.
Yeah, by adding some of that information, you're able to make it really visual, really quickly, right? Because that's another rule of design that you could probably speak to, is that you have to be able to get your message across very, very quickly, both on desktop and on mobile, and honestly on tablet too. If you don't have this information there that's easily seen, or you don't have the trust badges where they need to be, a consumer loads up your website, they look at it and go, nope, next, right? They bounce off really quickly.
Yeah, something like 7 seconds to capture the attention. So as much as you can say without really typing it out, as much as you can visually say to somebody, the better. And that actually brings us to the next portion. Perfect transition, Brandon. Utilizing effective visuals, in essence, is you need to say a lot without saying a lot. What does that mean? Number one thing is to mind the fold. Anywhere from 50 to 80% of a user's time is spent above that fold. The fold is basically where the browser cuts off and you have to scroll down. So what that means is you need to have everything that can help the user understand that you're the right business, and also a way to convert and trust you above the fold. Right off the bat, you should be spending a lot of time on that. Utilizing smart use of color. Your call to action buttons should be bright and should visually stand out on the page, and it should be exclusive to that. I really want to stress this. If your call to action button is red, nothing else on the site should be red, as much as you can. Keep everything purposeful. Everything we put on a website takes up space, right? An image, maybe a few kilobytes, text. With more space that we take up, that means more bandwidth, and it means more load times. We've seen from, I think, the Aberdeen group, in 2015, they found that every 1 second of a delay in your load time decreases your conversion rates by 7%. And that's just up to like 5 or 6 seconds. After that, people are going to check out. So it's very important that you only put things on the site that is purposeful and has meaning. Showing personality. I like to use the analogy of in-person job interviews. People can hire somebody based off of what the resume says and see if they're qualified for a position, but they talk to somebody in person because they want to see if they're the right fit, the right personality for that company. So there's some tricks that we can employ that mindset on the webpage, and we'll kind of go over that here in a few seconds.
Before you jump into that, I like what there's a bit of a balance there, right? Between everything being purposeful and showcasing the personality of the brand or the business, And we could look back at websites, the late 90s, early 2000s. You had all these animations and animated GIFs and flash intros, and things like that. And we could even probably have a long conversation about things like that still exist. They still exist in design that they might, you might feel like they are a part of the brand. This is funny. I'm a funny brand. I put this on here, but really, you have to balance that. You got to balance it between what's the purpose of actually visiting the site versus what is my brand actually mean to this person, right? So there's a bit of a balancing act there, and I like that you have those two right next to each other, because I think it's really important for as business owners to consider, is what I'm doing on my site hindering people from converting? What I like and what you like may be two very different things. We may have very different aesthetics, different colors that we like, but really at the end of the day, your website should be about, getting people to the end of that funnel that you talked about, the very end there. So if you're filling it all up with this friction and you're filling it up with nonsense that's forcing people to make other decisions, you're hurting your business by trying to force people to like what you like.
Right. And I know that sounds pretty daunting to take in. It's like, okay, show who you are, but also don't.
Yeah.
But we will show a couple of easy techniques that you can do that here in just a second. Just a couple more points on this card.
Let's do it.
All right. Second to last is using white space. People, I think, who aren't necessarily trained in design are kind of scared to use a lot of white space on a web page. But in reality is white space directs user attention and helps them digest what's on the page. An example I have for this is I once worked on a client site They had a really complicated service that was kind of out of the ordinary. So their solution to that was, oh, we have to educate everybody. So they put stats, images, videos, everything you can think of on the viewport, on the screen. And it hurt to look at. So what we did is we re-engineered that whole thing, kept their content the same, but laid it out so that there's ample white space per viewport, right? So whatever's on the page should be what the user's focusing on and nothing else. And I think about 3 months after we implemented the new designs, we reduced the problem calls on their site by 80%. So that's 8 out of 10 phone calls that he was no longer taking. And, some of that directly affects the conversion rate. So pretty big deal. Lastly, is to keep it simple. So we've only gone over one card, or the build trust card earlier. I'm going to move up a slide here. One second. I'm going to move up a slide. So this is already what it looks like, and it's already starting to look busy. When we just talked about, hey, use white space and also show personality, but also use only what's necessary. The principle of keeping it simple is to think about the highest ROI items that's going to be affecting your visitors, and only using those techniques on your site. So don't take every bullet point that we're talking about here today and utilize that, because that's just going to be a big mess and nobody's going to know what's happening. So in other words, think about where your vertical is and maybe tailor the language and the images to that. But on another level, think about the keywords that page is ranking for, and even the audience, the people who are getting there. What do they care about? Use that mindset when you're determining what you decide to utilize on the page. Does that make sense?
I love it.
It's kind of a mouthful.
Yeah. Right. And I think that brings up a really important point. I had a client one time that they had a very out-of-date website, super out-of-date looking, just a lot of design flaws and design issues on it. So of course one of our first steps was to talk to them about what they wanted in their site, and they were over it. They wanted a new design. They wanted to kind of modernize their brand a little bit, and we created a beautiful site for them. And almost immediately after implementing it, we started getting phone calls from their customers asking them why they sold out. I'm not going to shop with you anymore. I thought you were, you're the mom and pop, and you sold out. And we realized that we hadn't really taken, this was years ago, we hadn't really taken their audience into consideration. We knew that they wanted to modernize their brand, and we made this thing beautiful, but we didn't take into consideration that wasn't what their customers wanted. Their customers wanted to feel like this was a brand that they could trust, and things like that. It was actually an incredible learning experience to experience that. So I love that you bring that up. You have to. You got to consider your audience and what they're looking for as well.
Definitely. I think I kind of broke up there for a second. I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
No worries. You're all set.
Okay.
So you've been talking about you've used the example of of the form here. Now let's move on to our next slide. I think that's what you had next on the docket.
Yeah. Well, I just want to show really quickly what utilizing these effective visuals will look like on our landing page. So
Perfect.
This is where we left off when we started applying these trust badges, and then when we start applying these visual techniques, maybe it looks a little bit more like this. So the dotted red line is symbolic of where the fold would be on that particular screen. And having the logos down there actually does two things. One, we're allowing those logos to speak for themselves, so they're still visible. But number two, they're just barely visible so that they're not taking up too much visual real estate, right? They're serving their purpose without taking up too much space. And also having them cut off like that tells the user that there's more to scroll down on the page for.
I love that. And we've actually got a question from Wookie Feet. I love your name. Honest question, does simplicity still have charm?
Absolutely. The charm is all about simplicity. Anytime you're on a website, everybody's kind of offering something a little differently. And the key for a business owner is to make the experience as easily digestible and easy to go through as possible. That way, because here's what I'm going to say. Every time there's a learning curve on the platform, that's a barrier. You're increasing friction. So as simple as you can make it so that anybody going through your site can convert, the better.
And I think
Does
the
that answer that?
opposite, the other side of that question may be is simplicity in design. So, there's folks out there. I'm one of these people. I am not a designer. I don't have an artistic bone in my body. Not what I do. And for those folks, or for people like me, if we're working on building our site from a simplicity standpoint, I think there's a balance, right? There's a balance between doing something that looks professional, it looks good, it looks professional, and not maybe having a professional designer do it. And that may be asking kind of a different question here. But how do you balance the extremely professional, polished designs versus a design that has an authentic simplicity to it, but still really looks good?
I think if I'm understanding the question, it's balancing super professional, clean slate design versus showing your personality and having it clean as well. Is that what the
Well,
question is?
for someone who's not a great designer that still wants to build a beautiful site,
Mhm.
versus say someone with your professional skills in building gorgeous websites, how do you balance? So, as someone like me or an end user, how do you
Gotcha.
balance ensuring that a site that you're able to create or designs that you're making are good and high quality, but still retain a simple, right? I could make a simple image. I can't make something even as
Right,
nice
right,
as the
right.
slideshow.
Well, yeah. So design is its own little beast that I don't want to get into right now. But what I will say is if you're not versed in design, utilize templates that you find online. I know Marketing 360 has a lot of built-in Rainmaker sites that we have. But look at references out there. Look at sites that look good. Look at the sites that you shop from and see what they're doing. And a couple other techniques actually on this page that we have is a couple other easy ways to convert or to show the personality. And as if you notice from the last slide and to this one, we're using different fonts. So without too much design knowledge, you're showing personality by switching out the fonts.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
There's a balance there too. You want to make sure the font's in the same family, otherwise you
Right.
get,
This
it
is
gets a little
all a little
crazy.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
All
So
right.
that's kind of the gist of it.
Excellent. And Wookie Feet, I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, please chat us again. We'll come back to it. But let's move on to our next slide. Jeremy, I think we want to talk about how you use design to create urgency, right? To use that,
Yes.
your call to actions. And again, we're just working people down the funnel. They've visited, they've seen the website. They like what they see. It's pretty easy from a friction standpoint. But now we need to create some urgency so they take action. How do we do that?
Exactly. Another way I like to say what creating urgency is to become the only choice in that customer's view.
I love it. That's
On my
awesome.
next slide here, you become the only choice through a few different methods. Number one is utilizing promotions. So maybe you're offering a sale for that week, or maybe you're a lawn mowing service and you're giving a free $50 credit, whatever it's going to be. Communicating your value proposition. Every business exists because they have something unique to offer to the table, right? So communicate what makes your business unique and make sure that's apparent. Using urgency in headlines. In that same company I was talking about earlier, they had this proprietary process where they get your problem solved within 3 days. Basically, you contact them and within 3 days they'll have everything figured out and your product's done. So what we did is when we wrote those headlines, we said, convert now or something, not the language, but essentially we're telling people, hey, sign up today and have your product in 3 days time. So not only are we communicating the value proposition and using promotions to kind of force people to convert there, we're also giving them a solid timeline of when their particular problem is going to be solved. Issue enforcement. So whenever somebody's looking for a website or service, they're there because they're trying to solve a problem, right? So the whole principle here is you just basically need to remind customers why they're there in the first place. But there's a lot of ways where people do that and it's kind of unethical to do so. But if you just say, for example, a bed bug exterminator company, they go to the site, maybe you talk about bed bugs a little bit. Don't let them stay in your bedroom because these are all the bad things that can happen from them. So just reminding them of that problem. Lastly, emulate scarcity. We see these all the time with, place your order now and get free shipping or within the next 5 hours or something like that. Another thing in e-commerce is 3 left in stock. So you're like, wow, I have to buy now so I don't run out. So just emulating, scarcity of supplies or time, one way or another, it helps kind of drive that urgency.
Apple is incredible at that, right? They know that there's going to be a huge demand for iPhones, and yet they always there's always a supply chain, issues with supply chains, or you never know when they're going to be able to pre-order now, stuff like that. Everybody knows they're going to when the iPhone comes out. If you're an Apple user, you're going to get the iPhone. Maybe today, maybe a month from now. But everybody jumps on board and they buy it right then because there's that scarcity, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It works for them.
It looks like it does. Yes.
It looks like it does.
Okay. So going back to the page that we had, we're going to start applying some.
And we've got another question here.
Okay.
Jeremy, this one's for you specifically. What's your opinion on websites with fake urgency? You come into a product page, you see the countdown, right? That countdown ticker. But then you refresh the page and the countdown ticker starts over.
So that's first of all, not only are you faking it, that's terrible execution. I personally, so my last card on this presentation is be respectful. And part of that is me, I'm against that. Mm-hmm. Scarcity should be legit. And for example, one real way to pull this off is to offer different promotions every week that you offer to anybody. So, the scarcity is by the end of the week. As long as there's something real to back it up, the better. Because the risk that you're running is that maybe you'll get the short-term benefit of a few people converting at that specific time. But if that one person picks up on the little trick that you're pulling, they're not going to trust your brand anymore. They see that and people pick up on it, as we mentioned earlier. Yeah. So don't do it.
I think a good example actually of scarcity done well is Kickstarter. I'm a huge Kickstarter fan, but when and we've actually got a whole video series on this too. But you can create, when you're creating a Kickstarter, you've got your super early bird special. So you get a discount on the pricing, or more of a discount than say just the early bird or the Kickstarter. And there's limitations usually, right? There's only 30 of these available, 50 of these, 110 of these. And then included with that, the Kickstarter generally only runs for 30 days. Mm-hmm. Now that's I can think of plenty of business owners that would be like, I would want my Kickstarter to run for 100 days. The more money I can make, the happier I am. But to an extent, one, obviously users would get bored with that and nothing would ever get done. Mm-hmm. But two, it adds a little bit of, it's not an artificial scarcity. It's just saying this deal's running out, right? Yes. So in my opinion, I think that's a great example of utilizing scarcity as a marketing tactic or a marketing technique that is actually followed up on. I think it becomes ethical when you follow up on it. Yes. If something is always, on sale and it's only ever on sale for 24 hours, but it's always that, there's big box retailers that do this, right? You get the 40% off coupon in the mail, but you always have a 40% off coupon. So why isn't everything just 40% off? Yeah. People do it, right? But I think the authenticity is what makes the difference.
Or if you've ever been on an e-commerce site and every product has a 25% off badge on it,
right?
All the time, it doesn't make a difference anymore.
You start getting blind to it. So great answer to that. I appreciate you taking the time. Let's keep going.
All right. So when we start applying these urgency techniques, our page kind of looks a little bit differently. For one, we're communicating the value proposition. So imagine you just got a new dog and you don't have time to train it. And for this particular example, you live in Fort Collins, which is where we are. You search on Google, fast dog training, and you land on this page, clear value proposition, fastest dog training in Fort Collins. Okay, so there's the value prop. The sub headline says, turn your pup into a professional, showing some personality there, in less than 2 weeks. So now you're giving them a solid timeline of when their problem is going to be solved, right?
Love it. Love it.
So now I'm already sold on the site, but how do I seal the deal? Well, maybe we offer an $80 lesson for free if they sign up today. Or maybe the end of the week, something that you can back up.
Because you've got the offer expires, that date there too. So you're offering something and you're saying this is exclusive to a specific time, right? Mm-hmm. That's perfect. All right. So
So
in looking at this, we can start to narrow in all the different techniques that we're using. We've got some different fonts. We're utilizing a very specific color, that orange color, for our call to action. We have a call to action, a couple of trust badges. You've got the trust badges just a little lower to draw the person to, they stand on their own, and you can scroll through the site and engage there. So let's, anything to add to this slide?
one thing I forgot to mention earlier is, we were talking about the importance of contact information, and it's actually still on this page. If you see free $879 lesson, and beneath that, it's like expires on yada yada. Questions, call us anytime. Here's the number. So that's just an example of not putting everything as is on the page, and really thinking about, what's ways that you can visually make it lighter on the eye and make it simpler while still communicating what you need to communicate.
I love it.
Yeah.
And we've got another question actually that came in. Looks like this one's for me. I heard that people trust brands if there's a real person behind them that you can connect with. And what are our thoughts on that? Personally, I totally agree with that. I completely agree with the fact that you need to have a face to your brand. And we've done a ton of videos on social media. In my opinion, social media is all about piercing the corporate veil, right? It's about showcasing what the company truly is and what it really stands for and things like that. So social media is a great way to do that. YouTube, doing webinars like this is an incredible way to showcase people behind the brand. But if you're looking for examples, I think that Tesla does an incredible job of this. Everybody knows who Elon Musk is, and he's a class act, really. He's just a genuine. You can say what you will about him, but generally, I think that you can look at that and go, he's pretty honest with what he's doing, right? I mean, the man decided one day that he was just going to sell flamethrowers.
And he did.
And he did. And then he did. And everybody was like, oh, that's such a joke. And, oh, you can't send flamethrowers. So then he changed the name of them because he thought it was funny. He's on Twitter and he engages with users, and he jokes with them and stuff like that. I think that's a perfect example of somebody that you kind of dive into and you have a little bit of trust with. When people think of Tesla, they think of Elon Musk. Mm-hmm. Now, on the opposite side of that, you've got other, companies that maybe their CEO, Uber is a great example. I love Uber. I use them as a service, but they've had a lot of trouble from the top down, right? They've had a lot of leadership issues. So people look at that, and especially in today's age, people want to look for the person behind the logo. They want to look at the person who's running the company. I will never, ever engage or probably ever get the chance to meet the people that that run Uber, but I certainly see articles about them. I certainly learn about them, and what about the person really kind of impacts how you feel about the company. So I completely believe that having a face to a company really helps to build trust in that brand and that organization. Great question.
Can I add to that a little bit?
Yes, please do.
So that is really important, and it's why we earlier we were talking about being genuine, number one, and number two, showing personality on your web pages. I do want to stress that doesn't mean like put your photo on every page on the site, some people might be inclined to do. You can show this personality or this person behind the brand through design elements by changing your fonts or really being wise about what language you're using and what images you choose on the page.
Yep.
So
I love it. And I think that actually moves us to our next slide.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're talking about being respectful in design. So walk me through that. What does that mean?
Being respectful. Basically, we as marketers and small business owners out there, our mindset our mindset should not be at driving conversions up. I know we just spent the whole 30 minutes talking about it. That's a part of the goal, but the goal should always be to help people, right? Or have the business to solve somebody's problem. 3 ways we're doing that with this card. Number 1 is to focus on user goals. So we've already talked about So basically, we need to visualize that funnel again. And I think I have it on the next slide here. Oh yeah, so look, it's a cool funnel. So visualize this funnel. And if we're focusing on user goals, everything on this funnel should be driving traffic down, right? But some of us may think, hey, I kind of want to add links to my social media to increase traffic there. I kind of want to add another link to this external site. I'm going to move up a slide. And what that does to our funnel is it drills holes in them, right? Every little way that we add information that the user doesn't need for their goal on a page drives away from the conversion, solving their problem and giving us the business. So we need to focus on that. We need to focus on the user goal at all times.
Now there's a balance there, right? Because sometimes social media icons or adding additional information there can actually be a part of building trust, right?
Yes.
So you've got to really understand and be strategic about what you're doing. Am I linking to this picture or this external blog or this social media site or something like that because it adds value and it adds authenticity and authority to my site and what I'm saying? Or am I just doing it because I think that I should? And I've seen other websites do it, things like that. So I love that you've got this little graphic here with personal bio and social media and the unnecessary resource and things like that, because that's exactly how you want to think about it. Everything that you're adding to a site, are you doing it because it adds to the user experience, or are you doing it and inadvertently reducing value and adding friction?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And not to mention, the more you add on there, the bigger the web page gets, the longer it loads. It just hurts. Second point is to employ appropriate tactics. So really, this whole last card is all about how we dial down on the most appropriate tactics to use that we've covered today. This bullet point talks about a particular case, actually. There was a company who put a trustee badge on their conversion form. The trustee is just like a payment, like an SSL, or it's a security badge, on a form that didn't ask for any payment information. Weeks later, they found that little change actually decreased their conversion rate by 11%. The problem being was that people associated that trust icon with payment, and they thought they were paying, so they didn't convert. So making sure that we employ appropriate tactics is key. Another thing that we talked about earlier is having that like padlock symbol. Awesome. But some companies overdo it and they have this super crazy clip art of a trust icon, and that's just not appropriate. Think about who the audience is, and if it's not going to fool you, it's not going to fool them.
It's a great point.
Last point, and it kind of wraps it all up, is to make it easy to find a solution. So basically, if it's something, go through the site that you're building or the page that you're building as a customer and put yourself in those shoes. If there's something on that page that just like adds barrier to you or isn't necessarily there to help, this is just another way to rephrase what we've talked about, but this is really important. Make it easy to find the solution. Do what you think is appropriate and put yourself in their shoes. It's a lot.
It is. So let's tie it all together. Let's move on to your next slide here where we kind of see what all this looks like.
So I'm going to, wait a minute, what happened here? Oh. Okay, so this was the page that we had before with all our urgency. No, actually, that's...
So we're looking at the fasted dog training in Fort Collins, and we've got our banners on the side. We're bringing everything together here. But now we've been talking about how do we be respectful and focus on their goals, but also really make it easy to find the solution. So in doing so, this is an incredible design, but are there different ways that we can implement that may change that? And new ways that we can try.
Yes. So that's actually the closing point I wanted to make here is maybe this is one landing page that we can build, but depending on your service or your audience, maybe we make something like this. Maybe your video is much more powerful. Maybe your audience doesn't need as much information, so it can be much more visual.
Now, walk me through the anatomy of this next slide with the blue background here.
Sure.
2-week dog training. Walk me through the anatomy or the pieces, because it still has all the same elements. They're just laid out a little bit differently. So walk me through those.
Yeah. So this example in particular takes advantage of a much more powerful video introduction for the business. So video is incredibly awesome to invest into because people like to watch videos before they convert. So with this particular business, they did that and they wanted to put it front and center. So let's do it. You open up the page with a nice tagline there with the same 2-week dog training in 4 columns. This time there's not the big block of text, so people don't have to read. And again, it's the same things, trusted by dog shelter, canine unit, and thousands of satisfied customers. Really just think about who you're ranking for. So maybe this particular page ranks for a younger person who's looking for dog training, right? So maybe a little more visual and less texty. Yeah. And in this particular case, we have the call to action up top. Sign up for puppy training today and get a free lesson. It's the same thing, but maybe it's going to stay with you as you scroll down the page.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So there's a million different ways to design or to lay out the page. What we want to talk about here are the different elements or the anatomy of the page. And it can be rearranged to all sorts of different things. But by utilizing these points of this breakdown, I think we can really focus in on developing high quality landing pages that convert at an incredible rate.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And another way we actually can build this out is our very own Marketing 360 website. Hopefully a lot of us now can look back at this and see some of the techniques that we're employing and look back at your sites, look back at the sites that you convert on, and identify these techniques and see how you can apply them on your pages.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the techniques again real quick and kind of point it out on a live example. And if you do want to see it, you can go to marketing360.com. But let's break this down a little bit. Show me what we're looking at.
All right. So a lot of the same techniques going on here. Marketing 360 is doing this really cool thing where it's using its copy as trust badges. On that header, right next to the logo, it says marketing platform, UXI Rainmaker websites, small business CRM. So not only are those links, so it's navigation, but it's visually set up so that it looks like a trust badge. And if you notice, the words that are bolded are words that would resonate for the people who would be on this page, right? If I was a small business owner, I would care about marketing platform. I would care about the CRM. So that's just another example of combining those elements, make it easy to digest. Mm-hmm. We have this big tagline selling the value proposition, the number one marketing platform for website designs and generating more sales. And don't take a word for it. Here's a link to Top Rated Local or Top Rated National, some social proofing on the side. And I know for a fact Marketing 360 invests a lot in their video, so they have the video just below that so that users can click on it and learn more without having to read.
Excellent. And we had another question come in. What's a polite way to approach a YouTube content creator who gives advice on something that you're selling online? In your opinion and experience, did you prefer to pay them per post or commission? A little outside of the realm of what we're talking about here with design, but I'll dive into it just a little bit. If you do have further follow-up questions after this, you can always chat us on Facebook, facebook.com/marketing360, and that question will get back to me and we can have a deeper conversation. But from a YouTube content creator standpoint, really a lot of that is going to be up to what they are looking for. Some people like to do reviews because they get the free product, and they'll give you an honest review, and don't send free product to people that will just always give it a great review. That's just bad for your business. It's bad for your brand. Make sure it's honest if you're going to give them free product. Some people want to be paid per mention. Some people are paid per post. Some people you can, if it's more of an affiliate, and they're sending people back to your site and they use an affiliate link, then it's usually commission based. There's a million different ways to do that. But all of that is a lot of it's just going to be based on the communication between content creator and business owner. So feel free to chat us, facebook.com/marketing360. Send us a message there and we can dive deeper into that. So Jeremy, let's kind of tie everything in together here, the anatomy of our successful landing pages.
Yeah. So in essence, to build a successful landing pages, there is probably 50,000 papers that you can read on how to do it better. But the key is to identify what those techniques are that are respectful, number one. Number two is going to be effective for your business, for the audience looking at your business, and for the keyword that that audience is ranking for, and use those instead of using as much as you can.
I love it.
Yeah, that's kind of the gist.
Perfect. Anything else you want to add?
Not at this time, I don't think. Just
All right.
yeah.
I think we nailed it. I love all these questions. Thank you guys so much. Jeremy, thank you again for being a part of this. It's been a pleasure having you on this webinar. For everybody who's still watching, you can always access these slides again at m360.us/0f46, and that is in the description below this video. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you do have more questions, you can always reach us on Facebook. You can tweet at us. You can comment on the YouTube page. You can find us just about anywhere. I want to thank you so much for watching, and happy marketing.
Thanks, everyone.